I'm here with Randi Escobedo, who is the Chief Healthcare Experience and Population Health Officer of Providence Health Plan, and Crissy Turino, who is the Chief Operating Officer of County Care for Cook County Health. Both are members of the 2025 class of the Carol Emmott Fellowship. This is the class that decided on their own to create a small book of collected wisdom for women in healthcare leadership. They call it Unapologetic, a playbook for women leaders in healthcare. It's available on the Carol Emmott Foundation website, so welcome, Randi and Crissy. Your remarkable facilitators, two people I'm very fond of, Joanne Dias and Samantha Coleman, informed you early in your fellowship year that you were expected to create a project that addressed issues of influence and policy. Most classes have gone with the assumption that these were to be individual projects. Your class was different. How did that take place?
Yeah, Doug, I'll take this one. And thank you so much for having us and highlighting Unapologetic this morning. Before I answer that question, I do want to call you out because you did write our foreword in the book, which was just, I think, an incredible nod to Carol, what has been created through the foundation, and most importantly, the fellowship. So thank you for contributing to our Unapologetic masterpiece.
So you've outed me then already.
Yes, no, we don't keep secrets here. No, but your question is spot on, and I think it really speaks to the magic of what CEF9 or the Carol Emmott Fellowship Cohort 9 embodied. So you have to remember that when we got together for our first convergence, this was February of 2025. The Trump administration had been in office for about a month, and if you go back, everybody go back and remember what was happening at that time. We were living in this new state of chaos. There were executive orders every day. There were policy changes happening every single day. And these were things that were affecting things like diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, and health equity, and women. Funding was being cut. Programs were under attack. And so many of us in healthcare choose to go into healthcare to serve the most vulnerable. So as we're sitting in this room, not quite sure what to expect. Again, this is our first convergence. We had some meet and greets, and of course, we looked at everybody's bios and all their accomplishments. And you're sitting in this room with 23 other just phenomenal, incredible, accomplished women. Not very, not sure what to expect, but certainly curious. There was almost an unspoken agreement that happened for us in that first convergence where we all agreed, not necessarily through a conversation, but through action, to show up authentically and to create a safe space and to allow each other to be vulnerable and still be curious about conversations and about experiences and opinions. And so we opened up as the days went on. This is a 3-day convergence. And we started sharing stories of how the administration and the decisions that were being made impacted us personally, professionally, our organizations. We were seeing, research grants, the funding being pulled back. We were seeing, again, women under attack. And so all of us were impacted in some ways. So as we were sharing stories, there was this feeling of hopelessness and helplessness a little bit, because it was a month in and it was just chaotic, right? And we didn't know where things were going and where things would move forward from. And so I sat there and feeling so incredibly lucky, one, to be part of the experience, but to be in a room of greatness. And if you've met the women in CF9, greatness, I don't even think that does it justice. These are remarkable women. And I'm kind of, doing inventory in my head saying, we have experienced professionals, executives from all aspects of healthcare, meaning we had physicians, we had system presidents, we had health plan representation, we had pharmacists, we had nurses, we had value-based care experts, we had strategists, we had operational folks, and we had experts in every single aspect of healthcare. And in addition, we represented the United States coast to coast. So from Portland, Oregon to Portland, Maine, essentially, we had every single region covered as far as what was impacting healthcare in certain regions across the United States. And I just thought, if we can't figure this out, then who is better suited for us in this moment than us? So I very nervously raised my hand and said, okay, team, like, come with me for just a minute. And it was the power of what if. What if we could create something similar to Project 2025 about healthcare and how we fix what's broken in healthcare? We are the experts. We can do this. Again, if not us, then who? And then I think it was at that time where Sam and Joanne reminded us, hey, you have to do this advocacy project as part of your fellowship commitment. And while no cohort has done a group project, perhaps that's something you want to explore. And right then it was like magic that this was going to be something that we were going to do together. And so I think it was just a perfect mix of timing, environment, certainly the sisters within CEF9, and of course, just the tremendous facilitation and wisdom from Sam and Joanne.
Wow. Thanks, Randy, for setting the stage with that. I'd be interested in getting a little of the flavor of the book itself. And so, Crissy, maybe you would start. Is there a particular piece, a sentence or two, or just some kind of piece that actually speaks to you that you think you could share with us to get started? And I'm going to ask Randy the same question in a second.
Sure, I'd be happy to share. And I think, as Randy mentioned, we started to see these themes come out in all of our discussions and our convergences around power, authenticity, vulnerability. And we actually heard a story from Anne McCune, the CEO of Carol Emmott Foundation, who shared all of these different themes throughout her story that were interwoven. And those ended up actually becoming the chapters of our book. So we were greatly influenced by Anne and her storytelling. And that's kind of where we came to the chapters around building credibility, negotiation, telling your story, sharing your power. And so I'm happy to share just an excerpt of the book that really resonated with me. And it's actually, it wasn't my chapter. This chapter was written by Montana, by Tanya and Allison. And it's about the value of credibility and building credibility and leadership. So I'll just read directly from the book. Leadership visibility in healthcare is not about being everywhere. It's about being present with purpose. True presence comes from aligning what you say, what you do, and how you show up for your teams. This alignment builds trust over time. Influence is important, but credibility is earned through genuine interactions, not granted by title. Whether at the bedside or supporting clinical teams, leaders gain respect by serving, being reliable, and remaining accountable. And the most respected leaders follow through, stay steady under pressure, and make others feel seen. And I think with every chapter, we really hoped to share some of our experiences, but then also share really tangible tools about ways that folks could take those themes and then build it into their practice and leadership.
Mm-hmm. So can you say a little bit more about how that speaks to you in terms of your own leadership situation as the COO of this program?
Yeah, happy to. So I work at County Care Health Plan, which is a health plan owned by Cook County Health, a Medicaid-only health plan serving about 380,000 folks in Cook County. And we have always been a very mission-driven organization that has been highly focused on always putting our members first and our providers first, and also each other, our people. And so part of that is really showing up in a way that is authentic, but also making sure that you're following through on what you say you're going to do in support of one another, that you don't leave anyone behind, that you help one another through all of the things that come, the challenges that come in daily practice. And so that's really what that excerpt meant to me, is just making sure that we're in leadership, we're showing up authentically, that we are living in our credibility, and that we demonstrate that in daily interactions.
Yeah, there's something about the demand characteristics of most of your jobs that tends toward what I call centrifugal activity. This idea that you're trying to cover all the bases all at once, and that can lead people to speeding up in ways that are not helpful. But, I really resonate with what you're saying, to be present actually in the moment, so fundamental to building any kind of a relationship. That's really helpful. Thanks. Randy, how about you? You got one for me?
Yeah, well, I would say, and I actually have, I'm sure Crissy does too, but I just want to make sure everybody's seen the book.
Good little
Um,
display. Good.
yes, of course, have to rep the book. What I really appreciate about the way that the book is written is every single chapter has what we call power moves. And so if you're talking about street cred, if you're talking about pausing, which Doug is what I where my mind went when at your last comment of sometimes just taking a pause and reassessing is just so critical, especially in high-powered leadership. We have very specific, tangible actions that you can take. And it's not about doing them all. It's about finding what resonates and then using that in any particular moment that you need it. This is a tool book, right? Take the tools out as you need it. What resonates for me, what I wanted to share here today is actually a couple sentences or very small paragraphs that came from the conclusion. And what we've titled that is Claiming Power Together, because it just really embodies CEF9 and the intent of this playbook. So let me read these sentences or these paragraphs. This playbook is an invitation, not a prescription. Take what you need, return to it when the ground shifts, adapt it as your leadership evolves. And as you claim your power, remember the ripple effect. When one woman leads boldly and authentically, she makes it easier for others to do the same. You are not here by accident. Your leadership matters. Your voice matters. And the future of healthcare is better, fairer, and more just because women like you are choosing to lead unapologetically together. And I just really love, I get goosebumps every time I read that because it very much not only embodies the book and what we were striving to accomplish, but the spirit of CEF9.
Yeah. And I think that part of that spirit is just captured in that it's not prescriptive, but invitational. I think that's a great approach and quite useful and quite different from most business advice books, frankly. So, frankly, I think that recommends the book better than anything else, just to remember that. So I'm very curious, though. We've got, 20 women in your class, top-notch, powerful women, many of whom make lots of really important decisions, all of whom have opinions, all of whom have ways of doing things that have been very successful and accomplished. How the hell do you actually get everybody on the same page about what this is going to look like? I'm curious about getting alignment on both the content and the form. Now, Randy, you already talked a little bit about Anne's influence on shaping some of the content, at least a way of thinking about that. But what was the process? I'm interested in the group process that actually led to getting some agreement. You were quite secretive. As a staff person, this was like a very big hidden thing, and even your facilitators had commented, well, I don't know, they're doing what they're doing. And so I'm curious about that process.
Yeah, I'm happy to start. And then Randy, feel free to chime in. So anyone who's been in a group project knows that group projects can be very challenging. I think they can be either unifying or they can pull folks apart. Luckily, we were part of a group that definitely were brought together through this process. And so we started the year, as Randy had mentioned, wanting to do something and kind of come and show up for the moment that we were in. And so throughout our convergences, we had several convergences throughout the year. We, threw around a couple of different ideas. One of them was potentially creating a coloring book. We went really, really big. We went small. And so we ended up deciding to write a book and write a playbook and wanted it to be something that was really tangible. I will share kind of a quote from one of our sisters. We did a call to our sisters in preparation for this conversation. And Randy Woods shared that she remembered this pivotal moment when Randy E. stepped forward and she helped us kind of land the plane. She brought us all together to bring focus and help us move from possibility into decision. I mentioned that Anne had kind of shared her story, and then that's really what set up the chapters, and everyone brought forth their experiences. We had shared lots of stories through this whole process and volunteered for different chapters. And then we, stepped away and would come back together to refine the messaging, to improve it. And I will just say that Randi E really took a humongous leadership role, not only in helping us structure kind of the playbook from the start, but also building the vision of what we wanted it to end up being and help create this unifying voice. So just kudos to my friend Randi for all of her work in making this happen.
Yeah. It also, Randy, you may want to add to that, but I just kind of sharpening this too. This is a very well edited book. I mean, the tone, the language, the voice, as well as the structure. The structure makes sense. I mean, it's fairly easy to get structure. I've been lead editor on big books and so on, so I know how to wrestle people into that. But I'm really struck in such a short time that you had this got edited in what is really a beautiful way. How did that take place? Was that you also, Randy, or who had final editing on this that brought it all together?
Yeah, I would say it was a team effort, certainly. So when we approached it, as Crissy was describing, we assigned chapters and triads. So we are 24 women. I think we are the largest group, the largest cohort to date. So we are paired up in groups of 3 that met more frequently than the larger group coming together. So what we decided to do was take our chapters. Montana was gracious enough to put a template together that we all worked from, and we took those chapters back. We met in our triads, and we started with a template. We brought that back together. We edited it to make sure that there wasn't any redundancies, that everything flowed well, and then gave thumbs up, and then sent them back out to the triads to develop the full chapters. The process of editing, it was a labor of love. I will certainly say that. And it was challenging to take these groups of chapters and the collective voice of 24 women and try to make it sound as one voice. And when I say one voice, I mean collectively as the cohort, right?
Right.
My voice,
Right.
his voice. We wanted, the collective CEF9 voice. So we stumbled. There were things you don't always think of, like where do we store this document where we all have access and editing rights to it? That proved to be a very big challenge that we didn't anticipate. When you work within your own organization, it's simple, but when you have organizations with different allowances and blockage of websites and different roles, that was very challenging for us, but we worked around it. There was times where I would print all of the chapters out, all of the pages. And at the time, my kids were wrestling, and these were very, very long days. So I would take my laptop and I would take the hard copies and highlight and make notes and update them and send them back out to the group. And then we had a group of our sisters who were editors, Doug, to get a little bit more specific with your question, who would go through and edit and make sure that things like not only the voice, but everything was bolded in the right way and consistently throughout all of the chapters. Things were bulleted as the right way. The formatting was right. So there was many, many hands that touched this to make it what it was today. And what I think we all appreciated and what helped make it what it is everybody contributed what they could at that time. And that was okay. So if folks were in the middle of budget season and couldn't come up for air, that was okay. Contribute what you could. There was no expectation that anybody had to do any certain thing. We all stepped up however we could and made it come to life.
That's great. One of the things that I'm infamous for with the fellowship is my nagging fellows to write more and speak more. Do you think this project has had any kind of an impact on the fellows of your cohort in terms of their interest in writing more?
That is an interesting question, Doug. I would say here's what I saw. I mean, Crissy, I would love your thought. When we unveiled our book at our graduation, we had a communications plan, primarily leveraging socials, specifically LinkedIn, whether it was our personal LinkedIn or our organization's LinkedIn. And I saw a lot of energy. I saw a lot of posting that from our sisters that perhaps are not regular posters on LinkedIn. So I do think there was some motivation there to use a reminder to use their voice, whether that was through written social media posts, sharing of the book, whatever that looked like. So I do think so to a degree, but I do know that everybody was just so incredibly proud of what we did right and the end product of Unapologetic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Chrissy. You were going to say something
Oh,
more?
I was just going to add that I also think that I saw throughout the year folks' confidence in speaking and synthesizing their thoughts and their stories become more kind of refined and just like I said, gained more confidence in that. Several of our sisters shared their stories in the year-end symposium and just realizing that they had something really important to share from their perspectives. So I think I saw that thread kind of come throughout the year, definitely with your encouragement, Doug. So thank you so much. And then, and I think having Unapologetic as one of our kind of capstones to that was really helpful.
Well, it's very powerful. I mean, I was and still am terribly moved by the work that you did and what you've contributed with this, and found it personally meaningful to be a part of it. So thank you so much. Uh, we've loved it. The Carol Emmott community has given a lot of praise and attention and continues to want to do that. But I'm curious, do you know of fellows who have introduced it in some ways in their own institutions?
Yes, we have some specific examples that I'll share from my LinkedIn. I took the LinkedIn posting pretty seriously and really wanted to, uh, prop up the book wherever I could. And what I found is that even though at that time I didn't directly introduce it to my institution, people noticed, people within my organization noticed. And so, one specific example that I would love to share is I have a leader on my team who is interested in growing her career and advancing into more senior leadership. And so, we're talking about things that she can do and areas for opportunity and spending some time coaching and mentoring her. And on her own accord, she said, "Tell me more about Unapologetic, because what I've seen so far, I think it can really help me." And specifically, we spent some time talking about the importance of influence and how you can create influence loops and how influence often moves the needle and moves decision making along much faster than, just brute force. So I used principles that were captured in Unapologetic to talk to her about areas of opportunity, and then I also pulled in other resources from the fellowship. So specifically, we read a book as a cohort on influence, the power of influence, and brought in concepts of that as well. And then we have a documented plan for her, again based from concepts unapologetic that she's working on, and she's going to implement them, and then we'll come back in a few months and she'll let me know how it went and where we need to continue to focus. So it's just really um wonderful. There's one thing to create a book, but then to see it having the intended effect on women in the industry, that's where it feels very magical.
Right. Yeah. Chrissy, any stories? Are you aware of folks using this?
Yeah, I've shared it with our leadership team. I'm very happy and proud to be part of a leadership team of mostly women and mostly women of color, and have gotten some really great feedback. And then also have just heard from other folks who are kind of unofficial mentees within my organization who, shared that, especially as they move through their career, could see how using different tools within the handbook would be really, really helpful to them, and kind of shared that, a lot of these things feel like they're at kind of more of an executive level, but that's where they want to go. And so being able to implement some of those tools within kind of their daily work now would be really helpful. So it's still early days. We kind of just launched this a couple of months ago, but already seeing folks reading it and really engaging with the material and coming back with some really positive feedback and questions, which has been great.
Lovely. Where do you all hope to go from here with the playbook? I mean, one of the things that occurs to me right away is, Randy, your example of using it as a tool in mentoring. Seems like it might be that we should be marketing more directly in that kind of, as that kind of a tool, frankly, because it does cover an awful lot, particularly around influence and self-care and kind of management of your own presence as a leader. These are key pieces that are easy to be neglected, I think, in much leadership training. So that's one of the things that occurred to me. But do you have some ideas about how you'd like to see this used going forward?
Our vision is that this becomes a movement, right? This is not intended to be written and to be done, but it is intended to be on everybody's desks or bookmarked that they refer to often. It's not a final product, but we want it to be iterative. We want it to be used. We want stories to be shared of how women are using this to find their power, to find their influence, and to become their best selves. We would love to see this as a workshop, as a community group, as panel presentations. So I think that is the next step in our evolution. Now that we have it, we've had time to reflect, so that we've done some of the socializing of it. We would love to get in front of, whether it's national conferences and present on this, not only the content itself, but the process, and really highlighting the foundation and all the value that it brings to the industry and to women in particular.
Yeah, and I'll just add, right now is a moment for courage. So we are facing immense cuts to the Medicaid program, to the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, challenges to DEI and equity. And it's so critical that we're using these tools in service of people and in service of change within our organizations that promote equity, that promote protection of these critical programs. And so I think as we were going through this process, I wanted to ensure that we're not only kind of creating a set of tools for folks to advance in leadership, and especially women to advance in leadership in healthcare, but also in service to people and for the ends of improving our health system.
Wow. This is a good place for us to stop. I want to thank you very much, Randi Escobedo and Crissy Torino, speaking on behalf of the 9th class of the Carol Emmott Fellowship. And of course, now your class is a part of the Fellowship Network. And so some of the things that you're proposing, I think, would be, great initiatives within the network. And I'm hoping to see you energize some action around that. I think that'd be great. Thank you both so much for being with us.